Please explain what is happening in the Middle East.
Look, Hamas isn't an actor that can operate on its own. And we know that the Arab states do not support it. Iran is a revisionist state. And its revisionist agenda suits Hamas because Hamas cannot achieve what it wants, which is it wants to destroy Israel. My experience tells me that there will be a determination that we had the intelligence, but we didn't analyze it properly. And so there are many reasons for why this happened. And let's face it, the Iranians and Hamas, are using Palestinians as cannon fodder, and for their agenda. Neither do they just limit their attacks on Israeli military targets, nor do they themselves distinguish their areas of operation from population centers. So if you're Israel, what do?
Greeting viewers. This is Misbah Azam on New Wave Global. This is Naya Daur's English channel, and you have already been watching it, in which Raza Rumi, he has different shows on different topics. Today, I have a very distinguished guest who is no stranger for us. He is our friend. He is a very well-known expert on national security, foreign policy specialist at University of Ottawa. Besides that, he is a senior director of Eurasian Society and Prosperity Portfolio at New Lines Institute. I am here to discuss with him a very general impression he is taking about the changing scenarios in different parts of the world, especially Middle East. Like 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember, I had a chat with Pakistan's one very renowned environmentalist and a professor at the Boston University, Dr. Adil Najam. And I asked him a simple question, that how he sees the world now. His response was that he feels as if he is living in 1913, just before the World War I, when Russia was boiling for the new change there. Nobody knows who is ally, who is enemy, who is foe. So over the years, I've been using this answer in my writings and when I have a discussions and I give this reference. And I feel that he is not wrong about it. That is the way things are going. There's so much uncertainty. Let me go to my friend, Dr. Kamran Bokhari. Dr. Bokhari, please explain what is happening in the Middle East.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Misbah. Look, there are many ways to look at it, but I think the most useful way of looking at what's happening in the Middle East is strategically. Look, Hamas isn't an actor that can operate on its own. And we know that the Arab states do not support it. On the contrary, you have the Arab states deeply opposed to Hamas, a clear majority of them. So there may be like Qatar that has close ties with them, but beyond Qatar, and it's more diplomatic and it's more, if you will, above the board, if you will. So they openly have Hamas leaders housed in Doha, in the Qatari capital. They provide financial assistance, but that's more of a humanitarian kind of thing for the Gaza Strip. So So if we leave that aside, you look at the Arab world and you see every single actor, Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, UAE, these are the states, and I'm not going to include Syria in it because I think Syria has become a vassal state of Iran. I think that the Syrian president, Bashar al-Assad, isn't really a head of state anymore because of the devastation during the civil war of the country. He's survived, but he has survived in a way where he is extremely dependent on Iran and Russia. And to me, he's like a warlord. So, I'm not going to include him in this list. But if you look at these major players that I talked about, they're all opposed to Hamas because Hamas's agenda is at odds with the agenda of these states. These states do not wish to alter the fabric, the security architecture of the region. Which state wants to do that? And it's very clear that that's Iran. Iran is a revisionist state. And its revisionist agenda suits Hamas because Hamas cannot achieve what it wants, which is it wants to destroy Israel, and it wants to create not a Palestinian national entity, but an Islamist Palestinian entity. It's almost like, and many of your Pakistani viewers and Indian viewers would probably understand what I'm trying to say here is, it's as if we say that in Pakistan that the TLP or the TTP are fighting for Pakistan. They're not fighting for Pakistan. They're fighting to subvert Pakistan. So while Pakistan is still a state, but in the case of Hamas is subverting the legitimate Palestinian national struggle for its own purposes. So there's a convergence of interest here. And through Hamas and through Hezbollah and other proxies in the region, the Iranian regime is essentially cornering the Arab states. Because if you look at the behavior of the Arab states, they're very defensive right now. They have no solution for the problem. And Hamas keeps, Iran through Hamas keeps pushing them, and they keep falling back, and they play on the turf that Iran prepares. So that's sort of the strategic picture here. So in other words, anybody who thinks that Hamas is, its actions are going to bring the Palestinian people closer to, self-determination, they're deeply misguided. Because they do not understand that there cannot be a Palestinian state in the foreseeable future because of many, many geopolitical factors. Part of which is that the Palestinians are divided. And then now the Israeli public is also divided over the two-state solution. But what will happen is you won't get a Palestinian state anytime soon. But the existing Arab states, they're weakening. And this region, unless there's some intervention on the part of the United States, unless Israel can, regain the initiative, unless the Turks can come out from sort of their problems, I don't think there's anything stopping Iran right now. I mean, there are no arresters in Iran's path.
So, Dr. Bokhari, then there is an issue a little bit here. Granted, what you say, I understand what you just explained, but problem is here. Do you think then that by going to, we know that it was a massacre in Israel. When Hamas came, they killed innocent people. But you and I can argue, okay, Israel also did that time to time, but that does not justify that one militia goes there and massacre innocent people who have nothing to do. But in response, which is like 4 or 5 times more. So in one sense, do you think that Israel is playing and United States and Britain playing in the hand of Iran, Hamas, some kind of nexus, if you will?
Oh yeah, I mean, look, it's like a trap. It's a trap set by Iran and its allies. Because think about it, states that seek stability, states that seek to preserve, the broader order, okay, or reform it, okay, are always going to be playing defense. Whereas those states that are revisionists, that want to alter the existing order, they will be very aggressive in their actions. And we see Iran for decades now, very aggressive, pushing into the Arab world. So, yes, I mean, look, when Hamas pulled off the October 7 attack, it knew exactly what was going to happen. Okay. Maybe they didn't know the level of, carnage that they would be able to commit. But they knew that they're doing something that they've not done before, and it will trigger a massive response from the Israelis. There's no way any Israeli government, however hawkish or moderate or whatever it is, irrespective of who's prime minister and what political party or what coalition is ruling Israel, there's no way that they can say, oh, well, it happened and then we won't retaliate. And I'm saying Iran and Hamas want Israel to retaliate because it creates the conditions in which they can advance their cause. Mm-hmm. So, yes, to answer your question, it's a trap. And for Israel to go in, it's a conundrum. Neither can you not go in, and neither can you go in. And when you go in, you will, cause the deaths of countless innocent Palestinians, and you will then basically inadvertently advance the agenda of Iran and Hamas. It's a conundrum. It is a massive strategic conundrum, and there is no good solution for it.
So then it brings me to this question to you, Dr. Bokhari, that how Israel, so well-organized intelligence, so well-organized, security apparatus, everything, what happened? How they let these people go on a rampage for hours? How it happened?
Well,
and who should be responsible for that? Israelis wouldn't ask this question very soon?
Oh, they're already asking. They're blaming Netanyahu. I mean, the polls that we've seen since this attack suggest that an overwhelming number of Israelis are blaming Netanyahu for this. And so it clearly happened on his watch. There was clearly a massive intelligence failure. And prior to that, he was engaged in dividing Israel. It wasn't an issue of Israeli versus Palestinian or Israel versus Hamas. He was pitting Israelis against Israelis because of his efforts to, quote, overhaul, reform the judiciary, which was basically a way for him to protect himself from any prosecution. And then his alignment with clearly far-right extremist groups. And I mean, these are the people who are in his cabinet share the thinking of those who were behind the assassination of former Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin after he signed the Oslo Accords with Yasser Arafat. These are the same people who, are what we call far right. And so all of this isn't something that affected only the Israeli public. It also affected the IDF. And so if you have this kind of chaos in the country, and your intelligence and security services are stretched because Israel is focused on Iran, its nuclear program. It's penetrating Iran's internally with the elimination of so many nuclear scientists, with the damage to nuclear facilities inside Iran. So you have the Israeli security establishment focusing on that. You have the Israeli security establishment making sure that because Assad is now a vassal of the Iranians, that the Iranians aren't able to do as they please in Syria, which is on the northern border of Israel. So you have to interdict, any movement by Iranian forces or allied forces. Then you have Hezbollah in Lebanon. You're worried about the West Bank because President Mahmoud Abbas of the Palestinian Authority is 87, and
Yes.
he will
And so
be
much corruption and all that,
corruption, and the fact that he's unpopular, the fact that there are so many divisions within the PA and the ruling Fatah party and the broader PLO movement. So there's just so much on their plate. So that's one cause. The other cause is there's no intelligence service in the world that can operate in a red alert mode indefinitely, 24/7, 365. So somewhere you drop the ball. Then there is the phenomenon of falling in love with your analysis. So it's not like they didn't have intel. I'm sure when the investigation is complete, we will find out that there were signs that this was about to happen. We're already hearing from the Egyptians. They passed on some information.
That's true. That's true.
They passed on information. How it was received, we just don't know yet. But my experience tells me that there will be a determination that we had the intelligence, but we didn't analyze it properly. And so there are many reasons for why this happened. And let's face it, a small group that is more agile, is more likely to be able to find loopholes in an entity that's far bigger, and therefore exploit those vulnerabilities and conduct these kind of operations. So it's surprising, but the thing that I'm surprised about is not that they attacked. I'm surprised about the massive, if you will, spike in tradecraft. Because keep in mind, Hamas since 2008, for 15 years, its MO is rocket attacks. This was a sophisticated operation, and then training for it and preparing for it. This is a huge logistical undertaking, and so doing that while not being detected, that's the surprise. Because intelligence agencies make mistakes, even the best ones. But the fact that they did not allow themselves to be detected, that is a tradecraft that we've not seen from Hamas.
That's true.
So someone helped them.
Well, that's true. But the question then comes that, after all this retaliation of Israel, don't you see it that this problem which was slowly moving towards some solution, having good relations between Arab countries and Israel. And of course, once that would happen, then more ways open for Palestinians also, and then things would get better and better over time. But now with this type of retaliation, do you really see any hope, or these how it's gonna play in coming days?
So let's just say that for now, and for the foreseeable future, the kind of settlement that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was trying to achieve with Israel is going to be extremely difficult. But one should never say never. And the reason I say that is there is and you won't see them saying this publicly, but there is a convergence of interest. There's a shared interest between the Arab states and Israel to make sure that, Hamas does not continue to rule Gaza. Now, I'm not saying that they'll be successful in toppling their government. That's a different story. But I'm telling you what their imperative is. And they also have an imperative, a shared imperative, to make sure that Iran cannot continue to exploit the situation. And so now let's get to the part where, well, how do you do this? There is just no way, I will repeat this, that any Israeli government will say, well, we're not going to do something. We're not going to retaliate, or we're not going to respond to this. Because it creates a political crisis in Israel. B, it sends the wrong message to the other side that basically Hamas can do whatever it wants and Iran can do whatever it wants, because Israel will not respond because it's fearful of killing civilians. The Iranians and Hamas are using Palestinians as cannon fodder and for their agenda. So it's, again, a very difficult situation. I just don't see them, saying we can't. But then the question is, how do you do this? Is like a very, very how do you do surgery? This is like a difficult surgery. How do you remove Hamas and make sure that innocent Palestinian civilian lives are not lost, or at least, they're kept to a minimum? And part of the reason why is that Hamas's MO is to operate in population centers. I mean, this is well known. Where are they firing these rockets from? Is it some military base that they have? Neither do they just limit their attacks on Israeli military targets, nor do they themselves distinguish their areas of operation from population centers. So if you're Israel, what do? It's an extremely difficult situation. And one can only realize this if one sort of, contains the emotions. So, whether you're Israeli or whether you're pro-Israeli or pro-Palestinian, you have to set those emotions aside in order to understand just the sheer magnitude of the crisis and the magnitude of the conundrum.
That's true. End of the day, we want all the innocent Palestinians, innocent Israelis are all safe and sound. I mean, they are just in the crossfire between two factions, which is going on for ages now, and that has to be concluded in peaceful way, which I don't see anything happening in coming months or even coming years. Just last question, Dr. Bokhari. With whatever happening there in Palestinians, between Palestinian and Israelis, I mean, it is now going up or going down, only time will tell. How you see the whole world, because see, every capital in the West, in the East, in the Arab countries was shaken by this incidents happening there. How you see it will impact in coming days on the world peace in general?
So look, because of this attack and because of this crisis in the Middle East, the Ukraine war has fallen off the media radar. Not that it's not going on, it is. And that is the main war. This is in terms of, just sort of scope, this is still a limited, hopefully this is still a limited conflict. Ukraine is a much bigger conflict because Russia cannot allow NATO to be in Ukraine, and NATO and the United States cannot allow Russia to be in Ukraine, because then there's sort of, you're only so many miles from, Poland, which is a NATO member state. So that's the real war. That was what the world was focused on, at least the United States and its allies. And now they're having to deal with this. And I think that, this works well for the agenda of Putin. The Chinese are probably, actually not probably, but very likely, most likely, I would even say, definitively, are taking comfort from the fact that the United States has its hands full with another crisis, and they wish to exploit this and are exploiting it. So this isn't something just happening between Gaza and Israel, or Israel and Hamas, or Israeli Palestinians, or Arabs and Israelis. This thing has implications for broader international security, because of the way the stakeholders, the various stakeholders, are able to exploit the situation to their advantage, or at least try to. So we're in a very precarious state. I mean, I can see, Putin basically telegraphing the Biden White House that, look, looks like you have another war on your hands, and we can be helpful. You can't talk to Hamas, and you can't talk to Iran. We can, but it's not going to be for free. In exchange, we want you to do a quid pro quo on Ukraine, and get Zelensky to accept the fact that we're not going to return the territories that we have. So we have a settlement.
So, Dr. Bokhari, we are already running out of time, but just in 1 minute, am I hearing from you that this all conflict has some sort of Russian involvement also, and now they are going to play their cards by blackmailing the United States and Britain, and say they stay away from the thing and let us do whatever, and then in return we will have Hamas and Iran pull back? Is it some scenario you are trying to tell me, please?
So yes and no. They're definitely exploiting it, but I don't think that Russia was involved in the attack that Hamas pulled off, because Russia has close ties with Israel, and Russia doesn't want to mess that up. But it doesn't have to be involved to benefit from it. Okay. Its ally Iran is quite capable of pulling off such attacks, supporting, enabling such attacks, and whatever Iran does works to the benefit of Russia. So, in other words, I don't think the Russians were involved, but they don't have to be involved. All they need to know is that there is an opportunity to exploit. If I had to be facetious and cynical, I can see Putin telling his friends in Iran that, hey guys,
thanks.
We could use a crisis in the Middle East right about now. And the Iranians probably said, well, let's see what we can do about it. And so it's a complicated situation. So I hesitate to say that the Kremlin is involved, but is the Kremlin going to milk it? Absolutely.
Absolutely, they will do that. Thank you very much, Dr. Bokhari. So, viewers, you heard Dr. Bokhari's comments on that, and please keep watching Naya Daur and New Wave Global. We will be bringing you more experts like Dr. Bokhari, and we will be talking, and Dr. Bokhari will agree with me on this issue coming days a lot. I mean, this is issue which is not going to go away very soon. That ends our today's discussion. And until next time, Misbah Azam and Dr. Kamran Bokhari are signing off. Thank you and good day.